Hi, thanks for checking out this video. Today I'm going over the transformation between this 1984 Toyota pickup that I bought back when I graduated in 2013 into the buggy that I have now. When I bought this truck, I knew very little about vehicles, and I learned a lot as I went, breaking things because I was really bad on that truck. Just beat the crap out of it all the time, but I learned so much about fixing vehicles because that was my daily driver, and there's definitely a few days I had to bike to work because the Toyota was out of commission. And after a while, I bought a truck that was a bit more reliable, one that, well, it would have been a reliable truck if I didn't beat on it all the time, but my new daily driver allowed me to continue just off-roading that without worrying about not being able to get to work the next day. But after a while, on this day, I had a really bad time and found a big old puddle. Yeah, it was pretty sunk. I flooded the engine. The differentials were right full of water. The transmission, everything was full of water. And after I got it out and running again, I bought some new tires for it, and then I think the head gasket went, and I was kind of tired of working on it, so it just sat there for a while. And then a while later, my friend Mo rolled his square body here, and he was trying to fix that truck up, so after he rolled it, and the frame was a bit twisted, and it wasn't worth fixing up after.
Whoa!
So I bought it from him, mainly so I'd be able to start building the buggy. The parts I wanted from that, well, I took the tires to put on my old Dodge, the Mad Max truck, and then took the engine and just started building a frame around it. This was like the first weekend, I think, that I started working on the buggy. Made that frame and a little cross member and stuff for the transfer case. And that's how the whole thing started. Built a little roll cage. I based some of the measurements of the roll cage off of my Toyota's cab. But when I first started building that, I bought a few things online, a hydraulic steering kit and those Corbeau racing seats, just so that I had a bit of money sunk into it. That way I'd have motivation to keep going. Here I'm just kind of testing out the rear four-link that I made for it. I didn't really have any specific plan in place when I started building it. I just kind of picked away at whatever I felt like. I'd take on like the suspension for the rear. I did that over a weekend, and then same thing when I started the front axle. I just planned out a weekend, came into the shop and put together a front four-link. Here I'm testing out the suspension again with a bit more weight on the back. The gas tank is actually out of my old Toyota as well. At this point, the buggy, it has only a few parts that are actually from the Toyota, even though it is registered as a Toyota pickup right now. So I don't know how legal that is, but oh well, had to do it somehow. A little drop test on the suspension. I mounted the rear struts halfway down those lower links, and that way it gives me twice the suspension travel that the struts have. So those struts have about 6 inches of travel, giving me about 12 inches of suspension travel in the back end. And then the front, since there's more weight, I just went straight down to the axle with the strut, so the front end only has about 6 inches of travel, but it seems to ride pretty good now. I'm happy with the suspension. In some of these pictures, you might notice I have a light bar mounted under the roof, and that grew legs in my backyard, so I don't have a light bar anymore. But I got some big, I think 8-inch round, or 9-inch maybe, round LED lights for the front end. They're pretty bright. The overhead cranes were definitely an asset for me when I was building this, because that's how I'd load it on and off the trailer every time I brought it to the shop. And then here I decided to swap the engine before it was even done. Took out the 305 with the automatic transmission and got a 350 that's carbureted with this 4-speed manual out of this other square body. The funny thing is, this truck was also from my friend Mo, but that one I just bought the engine out of it and he kept the truck. Here's the dash I made. I was just kind of getting it fitted up in there. And I took it out and painted it. And testing the flex. There's my coolant reservoir, and got the radiator mounted, which that radiator isn't in there anymore because it was too small. I was having overheating issues. And this is the first start with that engine. I just love watching all the blue flames shooting out the side of the block. Didn't want to run it too long though and melt all the spark plug wires, so only went a couple seconds at a time before I actually got my headers on there. And then I had to plumb in the power steering, or hydraulic steering, and the brakes. There's the headers I made originally. I later changed those out for, I made some different style mufflers that are a bit less restrictive. This was one of the first times I drove it. I think this was like the second time I drove it. First time I actually ran it into my trailer because I didn't have brakes yet and broke one of the hydraulic lines going to the power or the steering cylinder. So after that, I decided I should probably put some armor on the front diff to protect those hydraulic lines, which you'll see in a little bit here. I was definitely having fun on that first ride. That was, I think, about 1.5 years into the project, so it was pretty exciting for me to start driving something that I built. I didn't know if I was crazy when I started the project, but I'm happy I did. Lots of work involved, but no, it doesn't feel like it took that long just looking back at it now. The worst thing about it is actually just insurance, because I have to go through facility insurance, so insurance for the buggy to just have liability on it and drive it less than 100 kilometers a year, it costs more than my daily driver with full insurance. And this is the first time I took it out in the jack pines, and coming around that corner in the next video actually bent one of my upper rear links, and the next video is kind of blurry, just from a bad file transfer, but you can actually see where I come around that corner, and the whole rear axle just shoves over from basically being side loaded, I guess. I kept driving for a couple minutes, or just to the end of this video, before I realized that anything was wrong. You can see here where the axle's way off to the side. I just kept going, and then when I parked up beside my dad, who's taking the video, I noticed something was wrong because it's sitting really crooked, and I looked out and could see that my tire was way off to the side. So then I loaded it back up on the buggy and took it to work, and took those upper links off and just sleeved it over with a bigger piece of pipe, and I haven't had any issues since. Here's a few finishing touches on the interior, and that differential armor I was talking about earlier. I put the big lug on the front of it actually just to get it into the garage, because my garage is like just not tall enough to get the buggy in. So at first I was running my winch down to the front diff to suck down the front suspension just to get it through the garage door. But now I have a couple holes dug behind the garage and in the dirt just so that it'll clear for the door just for the length of the buggy's roof. And here's the first time I actually got it really stuck. That was a rough day. The whole front tire was underwater there, and it was in muskeg, and I couldn't winch myself out even with the snatch block doubling the pulling power of the winch, so around 16,000 pounds pulling forward. I could not get out of that hole. I was there for a few hours. I've only been stuck once since then that was around that bad. But other than that, the buggy's done really good. Here's my little drawing of the mufflers I was making. After the muffler that I made there were installed, it's a lot lower, and it's hard to tell in a video, but it's quite a bit quieter, but still sounds really good to me, especially when I let open the throttle a little bit. And this is the first trip I took up to top of Flat Top, and Haley's gonna hate that I have pictures of her in there, but oh well. Country. This video is not my Toyota, but a friend's, and I kept that one in here just because it kind of shows what my Toyota was like. It was underpowered, and for doing sand and in some mud holes, you need a lot more speed, or to be able to spin your tires a lot more. And the buggy, now that it's got a 350, it's more than twice as much engine as what the Toyota originally had, so it's got way more power than what I was used to. And these last couple videos that are gonna come up here soon, they're all pretty much from this summer. I've been trying to get it out as much as I can, and so far it's done pretty good this year. Haven't had too many issues. This was my last trip of last year in the fall. My friend got pretty stuck, and I pulled him out with a tow strap around his bumper, and he wasn't able to steer and ran into that tree, and I kind of just ripped his bumper off. Yikes. So I'll have to probably give him a hand fixing that before he'll come out off-roading with me again this year. And the next little bit of the video is just a few pictures and videos of
That's
the buggy in
embarrassing.
action. I'll hopefully get some more videos to post. Anyway, thanks for sitting through this video and see you next time.